Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. So this video is going to be about the part of Eros. I do have a video about the part of fortune and one about the part of spirit. And this I consider to be a sort of third point on the somewhat unofficial triad that makes up what I find most useful with the Arabic parts. And to clarify, this is not the asteroid Aeros. This is the Arabic part of Eros, which is a calculated point. It's also different from the part of marriage and the part of passion. Those are different calculations, and marriage specifically seems hard to find an actual official agreed upon calculation, but I consider this to be much more helpful than either of those. And it's not all about romance, and it's especially not all about sexuality. Of course, the word Eros is going to imply this to some degree, and I'm not going to deny that that can be a huge part of it. But in this video, I'm going to explain more how you can use this point, your specific placement, what it means for you, how we can use it to understand our motivation, and explain the pull that we have towards some things. This is a little bit less of a embody this point and achieve this, and more of a way of understanding ourselves. We can interpret it and use it to see what things actually align with us or why some things might not. And before I get into it, I do want to mention that I offer personal natal chart readings and synastry readings with information in the description if you're interested. But what is the part of Eros? What does this represent? This is a spark of longing or desire, or this feeling that something is missing and you're pulled towards something in order to merge or learn or transform or evolve. And very often this is going to be a person. Of course, this has a lot to do with erotic desire, but it's not just about physical desire. It's not just about intimacy. This is about all of the things that really inspire that part of us that is searching for something. A sacred longing is my favorite way of putting it. And there's a quote by Paulus Alexandrinus from a very long time ago. Eros signifies the appetite and the voluntative desires. It becomes a contributing cause of friendship and mutual favor. This is desire as vitality, not just sensuality. The hunger for connection, it can be a hunger for so many different things. Creative hunger, attraction to projects, to ideas. So before I go deeper, let's go a little bit more into the calculated point thing. There's a lot of misinformation, and this is actually quite a confusing thing to research because there are places that give a formula using Mars and Venus and the ascendant, and that's the part of passion. That is not the part of Eros. And if you happen to know and I get anything wrong, please tell me. But at this point, I'm pretty confident that the calculation for this is taking the ascendant, and depending on whether you have a day or a night chart, you are adding and subtracting your Venus and your part of spirit. The calculation using the ascendant Venus and Mars is truly more about love, desire, that fusion point between Mars and Venus. But this is more deeply spiritual. This is more about our soul's longing and drive towards the things that are going to be for us in some way. And sometimes these things don't even seem to align with the rest of our personality. That's why I think it can be so interesting, because this part can explain strange attraction or weird specific things that you're really drawn to. Desire is essentially a spiritual compass, and the part of Eros is the part of us that moves towards these things. It's really about this sacred, deep wanting, a part of us that senses that there's something that we can get from this. But it's not all about getting. It's not all about chasing pleasure, and there can be pleasure, there can be romance involved, but it could also be about healing or about purpose or about creativity. This can be that spark or point of, like, the way that you come alive, something that shifts your course entirely. Or even simply put, chemistry. Chemistry between you and another person, or you and a concept. So looking at the individual placement, the sign is always going to show us how this is expressed. So this is going to be how we express this desire, or what sort of personality we embody when we are going after something like this. And then the house that you have this in, this is going to show you where that desire really shows up in your life. So to interpret, let's take mine for example. I have probably what sounds like the least sexy part of Eros placement, which is Virgo in the 6th house. And that's not disparaging Virgo at all, because I actually very genuinely understand just how intensely romantic it can be to integrate another person or a concept into your life so deeply, to make it be like a part of you, something that you are devoted to. This is being pulled to things that I see as something or someone that I can serve. And the way that this comes up as weird is because this really doesn't fit my personality. It can in a few ways, but overall, there are these dynamics and situations that I've always been really drawn to that involve so much self-sacrifice, the devotion of putting daily effort into something. I don't know how to explain in words just how much these sorts of things draw me in. And it's not mundane to me. There is something that can be charged about it. But if you look at your sign in your house, through the sign's expression and through the house's area of life, I'm honestly really curious about how you are interpreting your own, because it feels so personal, and this is the sort of thing that the average person might not even share with you or know how to share with you. But the way that this shows what sort of energy magnetizes you towards something, I'll just make another example. Say if you have the part of Eros in Aquarius, maybe you're most drawn to things that really pull that uniqueness out of you. The idea of rebellion or doing something very fresh and new. What this tells you is sometimes why certain things haven't worked out for you or haven't had that pull that you would think that they would, maybe based on your placements or based on what it is or what it seems like it would do for you. Sometimes we can be drawn very inexplicably to things that don't quite make sense, and I do think that this placement can often explain that. And a house example, let's say the 5th house. This would be things that really get you in your creativity. This one can be really strongly drawn to romance, even the idea of having children. This area can feel more charged than it might if you're just looking at your chart without this placement. And this can also absolutely be used in synastry, because this can show why you might be irrationally attracted to a person, or why you feel a pull on a soul level towards someone who might not be your type. And you can even use transits in this way. You could have especially passionate moments, awakenings, romantic developments when certain planets are aspecting your part of Eros. So, other ways that this can be used practically. First of all, it can help you make peace with your more irrational attractions. Sometimes things do not make sense, but it also is like we can't let it go. This sacred longing within us, what this can show you is that this is not a flaw. It's not like you failed, it's not like you're not being yourself. There is something working on a subtle level. And since I haven't mentioned this yet, how to use it with the part of fortune and part of spirit, since your part of spirit is involved in the calculation here, they're very connected. But the part of fortune, that is a part of us that we don't really need to put effort into, though we want to align with that part, but we're not going after our part of fortune things. They come to us when we are aligned. They come to us when we're representing that placement. It shows where things flow effortlessly. The part of spirit is where we have to go after them, our will and our drive towards it in a conscious way. It's more about intention and personal agency, what we're capable of, what we can do, and how to behave and what to focus on in order to really embody that agency. So the part of Eros is often going to be what you are directing that will towards. And when I say you're using them together, they're existing independently, but everything within us works together. And this triad, it represents what happens to you, what you do with it, and what your soul is craving throughout all of this. And what I think is so fun about the calculated points is that it's truly taking something very unique to you, combining it and showing how your natural parts are working together. And by adding and subtracting certain things, we're able to see certain parts of us on a soul level. So another way that this is useful is that it can help you create the life that you want, one full of vitality and charge and interest and passion. Life can get dull without the part of Eros if we're not honoring this placement. But on the flip side, if you over-identify with it, you can get obsessive. Balance is always key with everything, but this can show us what energizes us on a day-to-day basis. And even it can speak to our attachment patterns and show us the kind of passion that we actually need in order to feel alive. Since there are so many ideas of what we maybe should do, this shows us what's true to us. Because when we actually move towards what attracts us and what energizes us, this gives us long-term energy. And when we're using this within relationships, it can really help us spot who is a good match and who is not. And it can tell us why some people feel so electric when maybe they're not the sort of person you would usually go after. You can use this as fuel, whether that's in creativity, in work, or even that sort of erotic edge, how you can use this to your advantage in attraction, how you can feel magnetic and recognize what's actually magnetizing you rather than what is just familiar or even performative. And this is also a part of us that can be blocked. And there are many different reasons why something might be blocked. It could be intercepted, it could be difficultly aspected, it could feel like a part of yourself that you haven't really fully embodied or understood yet. But if you don't even know that this part is there, it can be like a hidden secret point that explains why you might feel like something is missing. It can even explain shame around desire or areas where you might fear being seen, fear your own actions or intentions. So many different things can be going on here. But ultimately, what I feel like this is most useful for is that when we know what really draws our soul forward, we're able to engage with life more fully. It can be helpful in relationships and also in endeavors. It points to what excites you most deeply. And it can even show you where to heal to better open up your capacity for joy. So it's not going to be nearly as relevant, nearly as useful as your personal placements, your North Node, maybe even your part of fortune. But I think it's an incredibly interesting thing to look at, and it's got a very unique energy to it. Very hard to describe because I think that my relationship with it just feels so unique to me. But again, I'm so curious about how you understand this. Do you understand it? It's been a little bit vague. I've tried to get people to really go in deep and figure out their placements, and it's not always the easiest thing because truly I think it's extremely personal sometimes and can deal with a lot of things that we might keep private. But it's not inherently a private thing, and it doesn't have to be, especially since there are points that you can look at that are more directly related to romance, sexuality, passion, and all of that. And I'm not sure I'm gonna go over any other points. I guess necessity is pretty interesting. If there are any Arabic parts that you'd like me to make a video about, feel free to let me know and I'll definitely consider it because I find these to be really interesting. But at the same time, there's really only so much that you can do with it. At least that's how I see it. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you've used this at all or even if you hate it. And thank you so much for watching. I always really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. I love you. Bye.